Hello, everyone. Put on your headphones, turn off the lights, and lean back. Tonight, we will wander through the darkest chambers of the mind. Before we dive into the story, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and like the video. If you're ready, let's begin. My name is Silas. I am 28 years old. I live all by myself in a desolate town nestled in the eerie foothills of West Virginia. I never knew my mother or father. My grandmother raised me. Whenever I asked her what happened to them, she would always lie and brush it off. But my true story begins with that uncontrollable, dark passion inside of me. Fire. Since childhood, watching fire would hypnotize me. Watching flames destroy everything in their path was my only pleasure in life. My grandmother wouldn't keep any lighters in the house, but I would roam the streets, combine the leftover gas from broken lighters, and create a fire for myself. On summer nights, I would catch flies alive, tear off their wings, and line them up on the concrete. I would slowly bring the flame of the lighter close to them. As the fly burned, it would make a popping sound, and that smell of burning flesh would hit my nose. That smell made me strangely happy. I would collect plastic bottles from the trash and watch the plastic drip down like a black tear. Listening to the sizzling sound it made, I would burn my fingers on purpose. Even the pain felt sweet. Fire was my only friend. When I lost my grandmother, I was left completely alone in the world. To make a living, I took a job at an old textile factory in town. My job was to carry large rolls of fabric. The factory was like heaven to me. Every corner was filled with dry mountains of fabric just waiting to ignite. In the mornings, that whisper was always inside my head. What if you set this corner on fire? How long would it take for the flames to engulf the whole building? Our foreman was a ruthless man named Gideon. One day, while I was squeezing the lighter in my pocket and staring at the fabrics, he slapped my shoulder hard. "What are you standing around for, Silas? Focus on your work or you're fired," he thundered. The palm of my hand was soaking wet with stress. All day long, I fought with myself, drawing paths of flame in my mind. This urge was consuming me now. When the shift ended, I rushed home. My brain was tingling. I went straight down into the dark, musty-smelling basement beneath the house. While rummaging through old crates, I saw a massive, pitch-black scorpion by the base of the wall. A scorpion of this size was impossible around here. I hit it with a thick piece of wood and crushed it. I couldn't just throw it in the trash. I took some fine steel wool from the basement, wrapped the dead scorpion in the middle of the wires, and set it on fire in the backyard. The moment I flicked the lighter, the steel wool sparked into brilliance. Right then, something completely unexpected happened. The color of the flames suddenly changed. The yellow burning fire instantly turned into a blinding, vibrant, bright blue color. It was such a powerful blue that it illuminated the entire yard. I watched without blinking until the fire died down and the scorpion turned completely to ash. This blue fire had stoked a sinister, unknown place inside of me, and that was the night everything began. When I opened my eyes in the morning, I wasn't in my bed. Underneath my feet was the cold concrete of the living room floor. My head was splitting open, and a bitter taste, as if I had swallowed ash, was coming from my throat. When I looked around, I was struck with horror. Half of the armchair in the corner of the living room was completely burned and pitch black. There was a massive burn hole in the middle of the rug left by my grandfather. The edges of the curtains were charred. I was alone in the house. It was obvious that I had done this. But the truly terrifying part was that I didn't remember any of it. My body had risen independently of me and set the house on fire. When I looked in the mirror, the areas under my eyes were sunken, and my face was covered in soot stains. That burnt smell had penetrated deep into my lungs. In a state of panic, I rushed to the factory. My body was on the verge of collapsing. While carrying the rolls, I kept looking behind me, as if someone was watching me from the dark corners. Gideon came up to me and wrinkled his nose. "Silas, what is wrong with you? You reek of soot," he said. I lied, telling him that the old heater had smoked during the night. By now, the mere thought of fire was making me want to vomit. When the shift ended, I returned home. That heavy, suffocating smell of soot greeted me once again. I resisted sleep. I was terrified that if I fell asleep, I would get up again and burn something down. But my body succumbed, and that horrific nightmare began. In my dream, I was right in the middle of bright blue flames. I was tied to an iron pole. Out of the flames, creatures walking toward me emerged. They were very tall, they weren't human. Their skin was melting and dripping down just like those plastic bottles I used to burn as a child. These faceless entities, whose flesh was falling off their bones, surrounded me. One of them reached out a melted, scalding hand and touched my right cheek. I bolted up from the couch, screaming. The inside of the house was freezing, but sweat was pouring off me. The dream was so real that the spot where I had been touched on my face was throbbing with pain. I ran to the bathroom and gasped when I looked in the mirror. On my right cheekbone, there was a bright red, shriveled, real burn mark. They were physically interfering with my world. At that moment, I realized that black scorpion I had burned in the basement was no ordinary insect. By bringing that blue flame to light, I had made a catastrophic mistake that should never have been made. I was being haunted. They were punishing me with my own passion, with my own fire. I threw myself outside. I had no one to turn to. I remembered old Elijah, who lived a few blocks away in the neighborhood. Elijah used to be with the church, but later, rumors spread that he dealt with the mysterious, unseen realms. I pounded on his door like a madman. When he let me in, he immediately sniffed the air. "Son, you reek of burnt flesh and soot. What kind of hell did you just crawl out of?" He asked one by one. I told him about my childhood love of fire, my urges at the factory, and how I had burned that black scorpion in the basement. The moment I mentioned that the flames turned bright blue while the scorpion was burning, Elijah's face went stark white. I told him about waking up in the night to find my house on fire and showed him the fresh burn mark on my face. The deathly silence in the room was broken by Elijah's trembling voice. His eyes were locked onto the empty space right behind my shoulders. He recoiled backward from where he sat. "What is it, Elijah? What do you see?" I whispered in utter horror. Elijah said, Don't you dare turn around and look, Silas, right behind your shoulders. There are two tall shadows standing there, reeking of burnt flesh. My blood ran cold. Elijah continued to speak. What have you done, Silas? That black scorpion in the basement was no normal animal. It was a guardian, a seal placed there for a very ancient reason. By burning it and bringing forth that blue flame, you have drawn the true masters of fire upon yourself. Now they will extinguish this fire in your blood. They will burn you from the inside out and turn you to ash. Crying, I begged for help, but Elijah grabbed me by the arms and dragged me toward the door. I cannot interfere with these entities. Their fire would consume me too. Get out of my house, now. If you stay here, you'll burn my house down too. Get out. He threw me out onto the street and slammed the door in my face. I was left stranded helplessly on the road. I had no choice but to start walking back toward my own home. Nothing mattered anymore. When I opened the front door of my house, I walked slowly toward the living room. As I looked inside, my breath caught in my throat. The faceless, melting-skinned entities I had seen in my nightmare, their heights stretching all the way to the ceiling. They were standing right in front of me. They loomed in the dark corners of the room. Black smoke was constantly billowing off them. Their melted flesh was dripping onto the rug, instantly burning and blackening the spots where it landed. I closed and opened my eyes, but they didn't vanish. In fact, they took a few steps closer to me. Because of that disgusting smell of burning flesh, I fell to my knees and began to vomit. One of the entities slowly raised its long arm toward me. The moment I heard it whisper my name inside my head, I bolted. I ran into my bedroom and locked the door behind me. I collapsed to the floor, bracing my back against the door. If I could see them even during the day, what would they do to me when the darkness of night fell? Hours passed. Toward evening, the front door of the house began to be pounded on furiously. I heard the voice of the foreman, Gideon. Silas, open the door. You didn't show up for work. The boss asked about you. And I couldn't stand your bizarre behavior anymore, so I had you fired for good. He was shouting. I didn't answer. Gideon walked away, grumbling. When the sun completely set, the suffocating atmosphere inside the house changed instantly. Black ash began to pour from the walls onto the floor. Pitch black, scalding drops, thick like tar, were falling from the ceiling, instantly melting whatever they touched. Every corner of the house was rotting away right before my eyes, and the handle of the locked bedroom door slowly began to turn downward. Dense, pitch-black smoke seeped into the room from the gap beneath the door. Spine-chilling sounds were coming from within that smoke. Mingled with these crackles were ancient, agonizing human screams. Hundreds of people were burning alive at the same time, shrieking in agony. The screams of women, men, and children reached a level that was deafening. Right at that moment, the lock on the door shattered open with a loud crash. Those entities, whose heights touched the ceiling and whose bodily skin melted downward, stepped inside. The drops of fire oozing from them ignited the rug on the floor. They began to walk toward me with slow steps. The inside of the room had turned into a hellish heat, in a desperate bid for survival. I threw myself into the corridor through a small gap between them. As I rushed past, my left arm brushed against the melted hot skin of one of them, and the sleeve of my t-shirt instantly caught fire. Screaming in immense pain, I tore off the burning shirt and threw it away. I couldn't see a thing through the black smoke. I ran toward the bathroom, threw myself inside, and locked the door twice. There was no window in the bathroom. It was pitch black. From behind the door, I could hear that wet, disgusting sound made by the melted bodies of those entities scraping against the wall. I was trapped there, collapsing onto the cold tiles. I thought about how they would break in any moment and burn me alive. Suddenly, the front door of the house began to be hammered on, as if someone was collecting a debt, or as if an earthquake was happening. Amidst that hellish din, a woman's voice rose. "Silas, open the door. I am your aunt," she cried out. An aunt. I had no one besides my grandmother, but the voice was so clear that a glimmer of hope sparked within me. Hearing this voice, the melted entities behind the door paused. Summoning all my courage, I unlocked the bathroom door and dashed into the smoke-filled corridor. The entities had shrunk back into the dark corners. I unlocked the front door and threw it wide open. Standing before me was an elderly woman dressed in old clothing. In her hand, she held a copper bowl filled to the brim with water. As soon as the door opened, she threw the bowl of water right in the middle of my face. The moment the ice-cold water poured down my head, a loud sizzling sound like water being poured onto hot iron erupted from my body, and pitch-black smoke rose from my skin. I felt that invisible fire burning inside me extinguish. The woman grabbed me by the arm, pulled me out into the yard, and slammed the front door hard in their faces. I was panting. The woman looked deep into my eyes and said, "I am your mother's sister, your Aunt Cassia. What you found in the basement of that house, which looked like a black scorpion, was actually a highly powerful protection amulet that I placed in that house years ago. By burning that scorpion, you actually broke the seal I had set, and you unleashed the true darkness within." "What darkness, Auntie? I don't understand anything," I asked. My aunt leaned in close to my face. "I will save you from this torment. But first, you must face your own past, your own sins, Silas. You have to remember what really happened to your mother and father. My grandmother told me they died in an accident." The moment I said this, my aunt slapped my face so hard. My head snapped to the side. "Don't lie. You have to remember." She screamed and delivered an even harder slap to my other cheek. My lip had split open, and a warm, metallic taste of blood filled my mouth. I was sobbing uncontrollably before her like a little child. Suddenly, she pulled an old matchbox from her pocket. She took a single matchstick out and struck it. She brought that small, yellow flame close to my eyes. It plunged right into the pupil of my right eye. The heat of the fire was singeing my eyelashes, but I couldn't even blink out of fear. In those few seconds that I locked eyes with the yellow light of the flame, that tightly locked door in the depths of my mind shattered. My memory was instantly flooded with images of that old house. I was a little child, 5 or 6 years old. In my hand, I held my father's metal Zippo lighter. I had joyfully set fire to the bottom sections of the long curtains in the living room. As the fire rapidly climbed toward the ceiling, I stood right in the middle of the living room, watching those beautiful flames grow with a smile on my face. Later, my mother's horrific scream was heard. My father dashed inside through the smoke, scooped me up in his arms, and threw me out into the yard. But he himself could never make it back out due to the heavy smoke and the collapsing, burning timbers. While my mother and father screamed in the midst of the flames, their flesh melting as they burned. I had watched their destruction from a safe corner in the yard with immense pleasure. Those flesh-melted bodies I had seen in my nightmare and inside my house weren't demonic entities haunting me. They were the scarred souls of my mother and father, returned from hell to take their revenge and inflict pain upon me. The matchstick in front of my eyes suddenly went out and turned black. I looked into my aunt's harsh eyes. I remembered I had killed my mother and father. I was the one who set this house on fire when I was just a tiny child. My aunt took a step back from me and took a deep breath. "You finally remember the truth," she said. Then she pulled a yellowed old piece of paper from her pocket. She wrote mysterious symbols on it, folded it, tied it with a black string to create a new protection amulet, and hung it around my neck. The wailing and scratching sounds coming from inside the house ceased completely. Those entities had vanished, but none of this mattered to me anymore, because that horrific truth I had just remembered had utterly shattered me. I was a creature so diseased that, even at a young age, I had caused my own mother and father to burn alive. Breathing with this reality was a far greater torment than burning. Screaming at the top of my lungs, I began to tear at my hair and rip my face apart with my fingernails. My old love for fire had given way to complete madness. I vaguely remember my aunt wrapping her arms around me in pity, and after that, everything went completely dark. When I opened my eyes again, the scent hitting my nose wasn't that beloved smell of burning. It was a heavy, sharp smell of medicine. I was in a psychiatric hospital room with stark white walls and thick iron bars on the windows. I was wearing a white straitjacket, and my arms were tightly bound to the hard bed I lay on with thick leather straps. I have no idea how long I've been in this cold, white room. Perhaps months, perhaps years have passed. With my arms pinned to the bed by those leather restraints, I spent days just staring at the white ceiling. The thought of being my own parents' killer drove me insane every single second. But one morning, the heavy iron door of my room creaked open. In walked my Aunt Cassia. There was great tenderness and peace in her eyes. She sat on the iron chair beside my bed and stroked my hair with her trembling hands. Looking at me through tears, she told me the actual truth that I had never known until that day. "Silas," she said, "you are not a killer. You didn't set that fire of your own free will. This dark bloodline curse, that hex that crashed down like a nightmare upon our family, has been going on for generations. They could never find who cast the spell, but that black magic slowly seeped into your blood and planted that unstoppable love of fire inside you. Burning insects when you were a child, that diseased interest you had in fire wasn't your own pleasure. It was entirely to feed that demonic spell placed upon you. The day you burned the house down, you didn't flick that lighter with your child's mind, but with the whisper of the entities that haunted you. Hearing this, I tensed my arms against the bed, trying to free myself. My aunt touched the amulet still hanging round my neck. The melted bodies you saw in the house that night were definitely not your mother and father, Silas. They were the actual creatures of the person who cast this black magic on us. They wanted you to lose your sanity and commit suicide. Years ago, I hid that black scorpion amulet in the basement of the house so those creatures couldn't find your trail. When you burned the scorpion with your own hands and turned it to ash, the protective shield fell and they caught you red-handed in your home that night. That was also why I forced you to remember your past. I wanted to completely uproot that false guilt the Ifrits poisoned you with. She undone the leather straps and freed me. Looking deep into my eyes, she said, "I will get you out of here one day, without a doubt," and left the room now. I lie much calmer, much more at peace in this white asylum. At night, I don't see melting bodies in my dreams. That massive love of fire inside me has completely burned out, and it has been replaced by a bone-chilling, pitch-black desire for revenge. Now, I only wonder about one thing. Where is that unknown person who unleashed that dark magic upon us, stealing my childhood and my family from me? If I ever get out of this hospital one day, fire will be lit one last time just for them. That was the end of the story, guys. Thank you so much for listening. It was truly a chilling and plot-twisting ending, wasn't it? If you want to join this dark world and aren't subscribed to my channel yet, you can subscribe and turn on the notification bells to be instantly notified of new videos. Don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts with me in the comments. See you in new stories, in new darknesses. Goodbye.